Well, g'day everybody and welcome to another edition of Australian Paddock, back in the vineyard. And in this video, I really wanted to answer a question that I get asked all the time, which is, where do you make your wine? And this video really is about saying a simple answer to that question, which is, we make it here in the vineyard. And that might seem strange, but let me explain what I mean by that. And as always, please like and subscribe to my videos and ask more questions. I've had some great questions. I really appreciate it. Let's have a chat about what it means to make wine in a vineyard. So the answer to that question really comes from the fact that it's a small vineyard. In other words, it's a single block. You'll often see wines with single block labels on them. What that means is that we don't have that many options once we get to the actual winery. We can't blend, or we don't blend. We have very few options. We can adjust the acidity. We could change the yeast variety to get a slightly drier or slightly sweeter or more full-bodied wine, but there aren't that many options. So the most change, if you like, can occur here during the growing period. What I'm really saying by that is, what am I doing in terms of watering? What are we doing in terms of fertilizing? And when do we pick? And there's not much else that we can really control. So in other words, it's the growing of the grapes in the vineyard that's really making the wine, which that idea quite appeals to me. So somebody asked me, where do you make the wine? I say, it's made right here. Once the grapes come off the vines, I say to them, that wine's really made at that point, because we can't change that many things. So I just first thing I'll do is I'll take you through what happened yesterday with the picking and show you what our vintage looks like, and then I'll also show you how we picked was important. So I'll take you through the steps that I think are making a good wine on a single block, small vineyard. So the first thing to show you is right here. This is the picking process. Now I only have photos, so I apologise for that. It was a very long day and taking videos is a bit of a pain, but you can see that we've taken the nets off, and you can see some of the bunches here on the vines, and they are very tightly packed. That's an important point, because this is how we were distinguishing what to pick from what not to pick as well. So look at what we picked. Beautiful, thick, tight bunches, what I would call, sort of stuff that you would expect to pick, to be honest, versus loose bunches, small bunches, that kind of thing. And then, of course, we picked 255 kilos, which is our biggest amount, as you'd expect in a developing vineyard. It's our 3rd year of picking, then it's the 6th year of growing. So maybe 2 more years. I mean, the vineyard's looking fairly established, as you can see. There's greenery everywhere. And really what that means is that we're very, very close to really calling it a mature vineyard. There's still some vines that are being espaliered, but essentially it's looking pretty good. So that's the first thing, just to show you. Now the next thing to show you is really what we left behind. Now, very often a winemaker will drop fruit, and I've read that some of them can drop up to 30% of the fruit that they're growing. And on reflection, I think this is a very good idea if you want to make as best a quality wine as you can when you don't have these other options of blending. So what I'm showing you here is fruit that we left on the vine. You can see here, I hope you can see here, there's little green bits. This is a small bunch, very inconsistent berry size. That's left behind, which we may normally pick. Here's another one up here, small bunch, some little bits of green left on it. Now, on the ground here, I've got some ones that we just dropped on the ground, and you can see they're very similar. You could say that's a reasonably nice bunch, I don't know. But to me, it's loose. The berries are quite loose, and there's some green berries in there. The same thing with these other bunches, green berries, loose bunches, versus what we picked that I showed you before, that tight bunch. This bunch is fairly tight, but there's still some green in here. And we don't want the underripe berries. They will taint our wine. Our final Beaumet was 11.2, which is really great. And we had an acidity level of a pH of 3.1. Those numbers are perfect for making a rosé to a lighter, crisper style. So very happy with that. So you see, what we're also saying is we've got a number of bigger, thicker canes in this sort of in our vineyard. I'll just walk down here a bit further. Actually, let's cross over to here. You can see, you know, big tall canes like this. If you've got a bunch of fruit at the bottom, you should pick it. But here's actually one that we didn't pick. Again, it just didn't ripen. It's small, it's loose, and it's got some green in it. So I hope that gives you an idea. Now, just reflecting on that, I would change the way I prune it a little bit. And what I would try and do is drop fruit to make sure there's a single bunch at the bottom of each of the two canes. Where am I? Up here. Here we go. About the bottom of each of the two canes. Here's a classic spur prune, and here are our two canes. Should be a bunch of fruit in the bottom of these, and there may well have been here. But this bunch here is higher up. You can see it. There he is. It's higher up. Now, we didn't pick it, but what I would do is I would drop that next year and allow all of the sugar concentration to go into the bunch that's down on the fruiting wire, which is actually, well, it's actually there. There's the fruiting wire. That way, there should only be fruit along the cordon here and not up in the canopy, if you like. So the next component of, if you like, interventions that we can do to make good wine in the vineyard comes from fertilising at the right time. And I've constructed this Venturi fertigation system. So we've got our water coming in, we have a valve, we have a Venturi, and then we have the line going out to the drippers. And when the irrigation is running, by closing this valve, it's called a bypass system, we can cause suction in the Venturi, which will inject through the pipe our fertiliser. And so we've been putting Sea Sol, which is a brand which is a seaweed-based micronutrient solution during the ripening, and before and after that. So for now that we've picked, we'll also be adding into that an NPK seaweed-based fertiliser, really trying to get the vine set up for next year. So we've been doing that. We've also scattered a concentrated slow release fertiliser called Dynamic Lifter, which is essentially chook poo in pelletized form, and that was done at bud burst, or approximately, and also a little bit in winter. And that's just been sitting there and gradually seeping in. So we've got a couple of sort of slow releases, and we've got a liquid injected system as well. And so that's also giving us, it's given us good growth, but also probably help in the berry ripening. That's the idea of that fertigation system. Of course, the other key element during the growth period is irrigation. We had a lot of rain up to Christmas, we've got bud burst in September, and we had veraison in sort of late January, early February. And during that period, we didn't need to irrigate because it rained quite a lot. Then it stopped raining, and that allowed us some level of control through the irrigation system, which is resulted in some beautiful bunches being grown. So that's the other intervention that we've done. And then the third one would be around pest control. So the main thing is that we sprayed with sulphur, particularly after the rain events of last year, at the end of last year, where we had a lot of rain and humidity. Then it would dry out, I would spray, and then a week or two later it would rain again and I would spray again. I think we sprayed 3 or 4 times with sulphur just to mitigate the effects of the humidity. And that also went very well. We had almost, I can't think of any evidence of white powdery mildew on the grapes. So I hope that gives you some idea of the fact that we are growing, making our wine really in the paddock, and that we have probably more ways of intervening in how that occurs here than we do once we even get to the winery. Again, particularly relevant when it's single block of anything, particularly when we're talking about small volumes like we're growing here. So we now have 180 litres of wine fermenting. We pitched the yeast this morning, and so that's always very exciting. And I like to think that we're going to make a really nice wine. It was a nice colour, acidity, fruit, everything's very balanced this year. Next year, we'll apply some more lessons learned. And in fact, my next video will be on lessons learned over the past 5 to 6 years, so that I can give you an idea of what we did wrong and how we're starting to get to the point where we're doing things better and more, and better for us, and I hope better for anybody else who's trying to do the same process. So I hope you found this video informative. Please like and subscribe and leave any comments below, and I will see you again next time. See ya.